Wow.
exciting. I was like reading this list and I was like, I know that name. So I was like, from the telly, and it turns out, yeah, it's from the telly. So
From
that's
the telly,
exciting.
from Bear Grylls' Survival Island or
he?
whatever that
I didn't
crap.
know
Yeah,
that.
it was exactly the type of trashy show that I love. He did some sort of
Amazing.
survival thing. Him and Steph McGovern. It was quite a cast. I mean,
And was he
amongst
good?
others.
Did he
but
come across well?
he did come across well. However, he became quite unwell during the filming of it and seemed to have a legitimate medical emergency.
Bless
So
him.
it's sort of stopped being funny for a bit, but then he was fine. So it was fine.
Yeah, apparently he's a fellow at the university, so he's done a few things, and he always comes across very well. He's spoken very highly, which is really nice. So
That's
yeah,
nice.
so hopefully he'll be on top form tomorrow. Fingers crossed. So yeah, big day, exciting. Shall we go? Yeah, happy
Yeah,
to
let's do
just
it.
dive in. Hi, Cara.
Hiya, Vicky.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's my mum's birthday today. Happy birthday, Mama Payne. So I'm going home tomorrow to Boston to see everybody, which will be nice. So yeah, quite a busy weekend ahead, but it should be good. What about you?
Let's see. I've got a singing workshop on Sunday at the Gloucester Choral Society. They very cleverly are teaching people things from the dream of Gerontius, which was in that movie, The Choral.
Mm-hmm.
So they've obviously thought, haha, we can get in on this. So I'm going to learn a piece of classical music this weekend.
What?
Should be
Just
fun.
casually, I'm just
Yeah,
going to learn this piece of
like you do.
classical. That's very exciting.
Yeah.
And that's who are you going with?
With Teresa.
With Teresa. Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
love a bit of
You
singing.
and Teresa have got a very social calendar. Like every
Yeah, we're
weekend
always
you've got
on it.
something on. I love it. It's so
Paul
good.
gets a bit jealous, I think.
Does
But
he? All
the thing
time.
is, Teresa and I both like to do these. Like, there is no way in a million years Paul would ever want to do that sort of thing. Or we go see the sorts of movies, like we went and saw Hamnet this week. Paul
Was
would.
it good?
Vicky,
I
it
really wanted
is.
to go. Yeah, I'll have to ask Kay, see if she wants
It's
to go.
beautiful and devastating. And even I read it and I still was devastated. I knew
my
what was coming.
God.
So prepare, brace yourself. But it's sad in that really beautiful way.
Yeah.
Don't take your mum to see it for her birthday, however. It is definitely not
just
a
ruin
birthday
her
treat.
60th.
Yeah, just ruin her birthday. Do you guys have plans up there, or is it just family time? Just chill out?
It's family time mainly. My job was the cake, so I delegated that job to Asha, our friend Asha, who is an amazing baker, because I could not. The thought of doing that on top of everything else just brought me out in a hive. So lovely Asha said she can help me, and if it's Asha, you know it's going to be beautiful, don't you? So
it's going to be stunning.
safe.
I'd love to see a photo. She always does such beautiful
course.
stuff.
She does, and I kind of was like, "This is what I'm thinking," and I was very wishy-washy, which I don't know if she appreciated, but I thought that was giving her like creativity, like creative
No, I think
agency.
you're right. Yeah, you opened it up.
I was like, I'm happy to go with whatever you think. These are some themes. This is kind of what we were thinking. And then she went back, boom, 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 boom. Is that okay? And I was like, yes.
Nailed it.
This is exactly what I need from you. Like, thank you. So she just whipped that problem out of my head. And that was that, which was amazing.
She has told me before that she prefers it when people come to her with just a few ideas and let her be creative. So you are definitely gelling with her preferred way to work.
Yeah, because some people don't like that. Some people like the script. They like, this is exactly the boundaries I want to work in. Whilst I was a bit like, yeah, just because she is so good as well. So I was like, whatever you're going to do, it's going to be amazing. So it's exciting, isn't it?
Good job.
Well, I've got a story that will make you happy, hopefully. Would you like to hear it?
I certainly would.
So welcome, everyone. This is She Changed History. I have a story to share with you. It's very much in theme with all my stories, which I think I like women who fight. And I like angry women. Whilst Cara's stories, your stories always seem to me to be about creativity and stretching the boundaries.
That's interesting.
Mine are just like anger, which I don't know if is a good thing.
Go time.
Yeah, I didn't consider that till after. I was like, oh God, you've chosen this again. So anyway,
I love it.
we've got a little intro. So you ready?
Yes.
Born with a destiny twisted around her neck, she was a daughter of Nagola, trained for the throne. In a world of rising empires and stolen lives, she was the storm they never saw coming. She didn't demand a seat at the table, she created one, forcing the colonizers to look her in the eye. A master of guerrilla warfare, a king, and the mother of the nation, this is the lethal story of Nzinga Mbandi, the warrior queen who broke the myth of passivity and rewrote the rules of power and refused to kneel. Yes!
This is so good.
Absolutely. I went to Britannica, I went to enslaved.org. For our sources, I went to blackhistorymonth.org, BBC News, and an article by Thought Co about the Portuguese Empire. So what we're talking about today is present day Angola, which is, think about Africa. It's like on the taily bit of Africa and is west facing. Okay, so Central West Africa. We're going back to the 1500s, so 1582 or 1583. We think she was born around then. We don't have records. And she was the oldest daughter of the king of Ndongo, which is what Angola was back then. Okay, with me so far?
With you so far.
Brilliant. Then I had a little look at Angola. I was like, what's going on here? So it's still the second largest country after Brazil in terms of Portuguese speaking. So they still speak Portuguese there today. It has a coastline, which is beautiful. So it has this amazing landscape of waterfalls, mountains. It's got also really well-developed cities there. African wildlife, obviously. So giraffes, zebras, all that kind of stuff. And is actually known today as the Republic of Angola, which is very important. So that's where we are. That's kind of the scene. So according to tradition, Nzinga was born with her umbilical cord wrapped around her neck. And for that, that's kind of why she was given that name, because it stems from Kimbundu, which is meaning to twist or rotate. So that was something. So there's a little kind of witch's tale, kind of like, what's the word? Myth maybe around how she was born. So Mshinga was brought up as a bit of a tomboy. She was very physical, she was very strong, and actually her father saw this little bit in her, and they call it prowess in the article, and he even allowed her to train with his army. So he's the king, has an army, and train, which sounds so like a start of a TV movie manga situation, I thought, doesn't it?
I love it, though. I love the indulgent dad who is in a position
Yes.
of power and just doesn't care about the rules and thinks, fine. I think Hudana had a similar vibe where it was like, I mean, I know girls don't usually do XYZ, but she's my daughter and it's happening.
It's happening.
Good going, dad.
And it wasn't just this physical side as well. It was also like the intellectual side. So he allowed her to sit in court sessions and witness these things. So she got a very early on, she got to grips with working as a leader and what leaders need and what is required, which is very interesting as a childhood, really. So like I said, this is late 1500s. We just need to go back a century quickly, if you'll allow me, because in 1483, the Portuguese arrive in Africa, and particularly that part of Africa. And over the next couple of centuries, they take over. It becomes the Portuguese Empire, and they use that area in particular for trading for slaves. So between 1580 and 1680, those who were taken by the Portuguese were absorbed in what is called the transatlantic slave trade. And overall, that was over 1 million people who were enslaved and then shipped off to Brazil. So very classic colonialism. It's really intense, if you like, a really intense period of that. And obviously the repercussions of that affect social norms, political norms, the economy, because, you know, they've completely destroyed it, and the impact on their land as well, because obviously farming was quite a big thing. This is particular, obviously, a threat for Mshinga because her dad is the king, and that's obviously a huge threat. And they were very keen on this tribal area where they were, and it was very, you can see how this is such a pivotal part of her childhood because of what happens later. So the Portuguese are just there. They're relentless. They're not stopping. And like I said, those numbers are quite staggering, aren't they, with where they're going. And Nzinga has a brother called Angola, is the king of a nearby area. He also faced relentless pressure from the Portuguese to dominate the slave trade. The kingdom's particular location is it's such a good target because it's by the coastline. So that means it's a really easy route to Brazil, basically, which is where they were taking people. So it was quite a strategic piece of land and a prime target. And obviously her dad isn't really on board with this, which makes perfect sense. And I think that kind of instills in her this kind of deep commitment anti-Portugal, but also about slavery in general, and that it's not right and it doesn't sit well. And, you know, she witnessed this on quite a tough level. If she's in these big meetings where they're talking about this and she's in these big training grounds for armies, and that's her childhood, you can totally see the seeds being planted for later on. Then I kind of went down a little rabbit hole about the Portuguese and who they were. So basically, the Portuguese Empire was very much a brainchild of Prince Henry the Navigator, and he was the financer. Okay, so he was the king, and then he had his people doing his thing. So he had explorers going and finding and settling. I don't think he was very active, apart from do it, here's some money, go. And the Portugal's empire actually survived for more than 6 centuries, which is absolutely mental to me.
Wow.
I didn't realise it was such a big thing. And then I was like, why did they do this? What is up Portuguese bottom in order to do this? And then I found this quote, which I think summarizes it really well. If you wouldn't mind reading that for us, please.
Portuguese created colonies for numerous reasons: to trade for spices, gold, agricultural products, and other resources, to create more markets for Portuguese goods, to spread Catholicism, to civilize the natives of these distant places.
What you think?
I had never, I mean, that's appalling to read, isn't it? But the idea of creating a market for your own goods by going out and colonizing a land, that's a novel one for me. I've never thought about that before.
Yeah, it's a little bit Trumpy, not going to lie. It's a little bit what Trump's on at the moment. So it's very interesting. The particular draw to Angola was very much gold, and it was also diamonds, which isn't in that quote, but is very much what they had. Whilst today, it would probably be more like oil, for example.
Yeah.
Things like that. If someone comes for us over the next 2 weeks, I'm sorry. You know, that is... if someone comes and murders us, but that's what's
Speak
happening.
your truth, babe. Yeah. I will stand there with you.
We will die together. So just before Nzinga was born, the Portugal Empire, who had a century basically of doing really well in terms of their agenda, had a bit of a crisis when Henry, the financer, died and was childless, right? So then what ensued was 2 or 3 years of what the hell is going on, Portugal, basically. And it was called the Succession War, I think it was called, which is mad that there was even a war about who's leading the empire. So there was a battle between 3 key people. Philip II of Spain. So there was a key battle between 3 guys. Philip II of Spain actually won that battle. He was a close relative of Henry anyway. But he had to kind of claim his throne a little bit like Matilda, and it was maybe strictly hers, but then they actually had to go and fight for it. This takes 3 years for them to sort this out. So Philip II of Spain becomes Philip I of Portugal, and he's there for about 60 years. So he's a real key figure in Nzinga's story. So that's her childhood, basically. There's a lot of big moving parts in amongst this empire building by Portugal, which is really interesting. So Nzinga's father has been leading, but he has been struggling against the Portuguese. He loses a load of fights with them, and it's a bit like a football season, I think. If your team lose and lose and lose, they chuck out the manager, don't they? Pretty much. And that's kind of what happened. So he was killed by his own people in 1617.
No.
Oh, yes. Nzinga's brother seized power at this point for himself. I should really know this, but I imagine that's because he's a man, and that was the key line of succession. And he killed anyone he thought was a threat, including family. Which is
ruthless,
mental. Yep,
efficient.
This is a theme that we're gonna find in this family, is that blood is not thick. But he did leave the women. He left the women, and that's nice of him. But what he did do was sterilize them. So he was like, you can live, but you can't have any children yourself.
Oh, in case they threatened. Wow.
What a piece of work.
He left no stone unturned, did he? He was thorough and ruthless.
He knew what he wanted and nothing was going to stand in his way. He sounds a hoot. We move on then. Things kind of settle down for a bit, and, you know, as stable as a colonization war can be. Nzinga doesn't really come on our radar until 1622. And that's because, like I said, she's part of this royal family. She goes off and does some negotiating, you know, and she goes off and does these diplomatic meetings. And, you know, she's very much an active part of that service. And she comes back on people's radars when she doesn't go to Portugal, but she meets with Portugal officials to negotiate a peace treaty, basically, on her brother's behalf. I think these negotiations happen quite quickly and a lot. I think it was very much a back and forth, because that territory that I spoke about earlier was so important. They were on it all the time.
Say, what a thing for her to be entrusted with in what sounds like quite a patriarchal, but maybe it was just like, oh God, another one of those meetings with Portugal. Oh, just send her.
Because why else would he delegate it? I was thinking. Right? Anyway, it's this incident that asserts her place in history to start off with, and then she builds on it. It becomes quite a famous incident because when she arrives at this meeting, the Portuguese, either they wanted to insult her and annoy her and kind of assert themselves a bit, or through complete ignorance. They had a table and they were sitting at it for this meeting, and they gave her a rug, like a mat, on the floor to sit on.
Oh.
Rude. And if you could read her response to that, that would be wonderful, please.
In response, Nzinga ordered one of her servants to bend and serve as her chair, asserting her right to sit on the same level as the Portuguese.
Right.
Okay.
Talk about getting your seat at the table. She's actually making her seat out of another human being, which is a hell of a power move, right? And this is on a global stage. You've got to think this is on an international setting. This is a key negotiation. This is, you know, she's had her whole childhood of just being tormented by this empire. And she knows people are watching. And she knows that she wants to assert herself. And it's fascinating that that was her solution. Because she didn't even ask them. She didn't even talk to them about it, the Portuguese. She was like, fine, I'll fix this myself. And also, it's very much a don't mess with me statement.
Yeah, if you're willing to treat your own people like that, what aren't you capable of?
I know. So this very much epitomizes her character, and that she will not be messed with, basically, particularly to these colonial powers. And this becomes the beginning of she is known for her resistance. That's her legacy. And this is the start of that, very much so. During this trip, this actually worked. So she made a really big impression on the governor of Luanda, which is another Africa area, which is very important later on. Also during this trip, which is very interesting, is that you're always like, don't know how do I feel about it. But during this trip, she also agrees to be baptized. Okay. Which very much leads into that Catholic goal that we had from the Portuguese. And she also takes a Christian name, which is Ana, A-N-A, Ana de Souza. And part of this is her negotiating. Okay, so she negotiates a peace treaty in which the Portuguese agree to withdraw their forces and assist in pushing back mercenaries attacking the kingdom. So a huge win for her. So she's asserted herself and she's been baptized, and that has led to this.
So she's like, fine, call me Anna. Let's just get this deal done.
Potentially. I couldn't work out, because there's a little bit later that we'll come on to, how serious she is about Catholicism. I'm not sure. But the next part of the story is very telling. So she's had this huge win, okay, but she's not leader, but she's managed to have this huge win. In 1624, her brother mysteriously dies under mysterious circumstances. Some records say suicide. Some people say she did it. Some people, he was just there one day. Very mysterious.
Well, and I'm not saying it was the right thing to have happened, but it does sound like it was kind of live by the sword, die by the sword, because he took this absolutely scorched earth approach with his family. So it isn't entirely surprising, if it was murder, that, that it would kind of come back to bite him.
Different families have different traditions. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
All families are different.
So what this means is that Nzinga was able to rule as regent for his son. Okay, so her nephew. The son had the same name as the dad, so that's where the succession line was meant to be. And in history, we normally think, oh, okay, so this is actually a big deal. Being regent, you can actually do a lot with that. You can do a lot of power with that. We spoke about it with Empress Matilda. I think we spoke about it with Catherine the Great, maybe. I think we spoke about it with Grace of Mali. This is a theme that comes up in allowing women just to, if you let your toe in, then you can push the door down, basically. So you think, reading that, oh, great, this is going to be really good. No, what she does then is she murders her nephew. So she's
who
like,
has
no.
the time? I mean, who has the time?
I can't be bothered with this.
Was this a threatened by his possible claim to the throne thing again? Was it that same
100%,
thing?
100%.
Oh, okay.
And again, a different source said under mysterious circumstances, right? But it just seems a bit, there's two mysterious circumstances in close succession. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. It's a real health threat to be in line to the throne, I think. Quite a dangerous thing to be.
Yes. So all this reads very much that she wants the throne to herself. This makes her queen. So she becomes queen in 1624, and she becomes one of the few female rulers in African history which we know about. She took on the title of Angola, which is a term traditionally reserved for male leaders. And then she's like, right, we're going to, my one aim is to liberate and to reform from the Portuguese, right, from their control. And that is her main goal throughout her reign. She continues to negotiate with Portuguese authorities, although these were largely successful. You can see the Portuguese negate on their treaties all the time. They just go again and go again and go again. What doesn't help is that during this succession battle that is going on, they're not that keen on her having the throne. Instead, they want somebody else to have the throne. The Portuguese do. Somebody called Harriet Angola, who is a rival leader. And they basically use him to challenge Nzinga's right to the throne.
Oh.
Yes, this brings out more wars, basically, and more fighting, because they don't feel like she should have the throne. Because of the Portuguese pushing and pushing, so this is around 1626, she flees south to a territory called Angola, where her brother owns some land there still. This is still all in modern day Angola, right? This is still there. She's attacked again, so she flees her brother's territory. It's just relentless, isn't it? And this is what really astonished me about this Portuguese empire. It was just non-stop. They would not, like a dog with a bone,
Like the prophet must have driven that. They must have been earning so much money. And, did you get a sense when she was being attacked like this and fleeing that she was still the ruler? Was she still trying to keep in charge, or was she just on the run, kicked out, deposed, whatever the word would be?
She definitely put up a fight, definitely. And we'll talk about what she did later on. She does lose that land, so that her original homeland, that's kind of gone, because it is so relentless, and she keeps moving along, basically. And I think it seems to be more inland the more she goes inland, and obviously they care about the coastal passage to Brazil. When she flees her brother's territory, the Portuguese actually capture her sisters, Cambu and Fungi, and they hold them captive. So that's another huge blow to her. Okay. So it looks like at the minute she's on the back foot, right? She's been pushed out, fight. But actually this becomes her turning point in her story. So very much the lowest point, this is where it turns around for her. There's a little quote there about what she does to turn that around, or how she starts, if you like, to turn that.
Queen Nzinga is perhaps best known for her military acumen. She trained her army in the art of guerrilla warfare, conducting hit-and-run attacks on Portuguese settlements and supply lines, which severely disrupted their operations. Okay.
Yes. So resistance. She is a full-on go. She's not afraid to attack where it hurts, basically.
That common strategic approach with Nanny of the Maroon, where you might not have the military might to overwhelm your enemy, so you work smart, not hard. You think through what is going to be the most devastating thing I can do. If I can't just overcome, I am going to cut, I don't want to say gross things like this, but like cut your Achilles tendon. And then, like that, yeah, what an impressive approach.
And also sometimes it's not how well you do, it's the fact that you're doing something. So I think that really helped, particularly if you take her dad had losses as well and died for it, right? But I think because it was so aggressive and it didn't matter that she was a woman, she's still going to attack them where it hurts. She's really going to mess them up, particularly if you're thinking about supply lines and stuff like that. That is a huge thing. And we spoke about, like you said, in the Nanny episode, about the fear that puts into soldiers who aren't used to this territory, aren't used to this way of life. It's really interesting, isn't it? And I wonder if that is what has inspired her story and her legacy. So this idea that she's not afraid to resist and that she will put up a fight, and actually that is quite inspiring to others. It was known that she inspired other African leaders as well because of the aggressiveness of this attack. And it's like, well, if she can do it and she's a woman, I can do it. So I think she's kind of been presented as this lifting up character that she inadvertently, I think, lifts other people up, which is quite cool. The other thing that she did was provide sanctuary for runaway slaves and soldiers, which also weakened the Portuguese economic interest because you can't sell them, and also strengthened her own forces. So she was very much grabbing what you can. And so now we've seen two sides of her. We've seen the diplomatic side of her, where she's happy to negotiate in a room. And we've seen the attacking, military, tactical side of her, which makes her reign very much epitomizes that as, she's a solid leader kind of thing. Like she's holding her own. The other thing she understands as a leader is the importance of alliances. So, like I said, she inspired these other African leaders and then she worked with them. And she was also known to work with other European powers who were also opposed to Portugal. So she's very much, she knows what she wants and she'll do anything to get there. Okay, which is really interesting. And like I said, she did convert to Christianity. She also did some strategic lovemaking, matchmaking as well to build her, which is kind of how it happens all the time, doesn't it? Like my son will marry your daughter of that kingdom and then we'll be together. So very much like that. And she ends up building this like big coalition against the Portuguese. So it's not just her anymore fighting. It's her and her allies fighting, which is another thing that her father, I don't think, did from how it reads, but also shows that she's serious in this resistance.
And she's able to challenge the ways that have gone before. Because if your worst enemy was always your neighbor, and then suddenly someone's come along who's even worse and they're both of your enemy, it still takes an openness and a pragmatism to say, we need to put aside our differences because that divide and rule thing is destroying us. Form that coalition. We can get back to fighting each other later. Let's get rid of these guys. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, she did lose her original territory, but she did conquer other neighbouring kingdoms, including Kikdongo and Matamba, which is very important. So she was growing her empire. The Matamba was the key part of Nzinga's power. That was such a key part because it was an important milestone anyway, because of its resources, but also it had a history of female rulers. So it meant that she was able to gain acceptance there quite quickly and quite easily, because you would think that her gender would be a factor that is negative, and actually because of their history it kind of worked out quite well. Having said that, is thought and known that Nzinga actually decided at some point in the 1640s to live as a man to further strengthen her power. So she was very much androgynous, and also she wasn't afraid. We would call it, I guess, fluidity now, but she wasn't afraid with that. She had concubines of men and women. It's not unheard of in this culture of that either, to have women being as men. It's, when previous female rulers have done it, and it's just I think it's seen as a strength symbol more than anything, to be honest. So it wasn't unusual. Her husbands, because I think she had many husbands, very much like her king would have many wives, they were also forced to dress as women. So it wasn't just her thing, she was forcing it and
like
spreading
a full
it out.
Presentation of
really interesting. Yeah. And obviously that again is giving her a reputation and giving her almost like spin doctory, isn't it? That's how I feel a little.
Like a mystique and a public image management piece.
Like
of
PRing.
You think you know who I am. You don't know who I am. I am whoever I want to be, and you will accept me.
Yeah. And then
I admire
you can
it.
totally see that rippling through the Portuguese camps, can't you? Who might not have been exposed to that way of living. And much like the kneeling and creating a seat, it's very similar, don't mess with me kind of vibes. And that's what happened. So she gained a solid reputation for being ferocious and standing up against the Portuguese and rejecting gender norms. And obviously that's quite a scandal, isn't it, to the Portuguese, who aren't necessarily akin with that. But the other thing that added to this reputation is that she was also known to partake in the slave trade as well. So this kind of adds a different depth to her character and a different complexity to her character. I double checked that I'd read it right, and I went through and I compared it to different sources, and yes, she was a queen that sold, they think, around 200,000 slaves to the Portuguese, of all people, as well, so to the enemy. And you're like, why did you do that? Mm-hmm. And I think it's a tactical thing. I think it might have been a resource thing. It might have been they needed money. Could have been anything. It was thought that the 200,000 were either enemies or Portuguese soldiers, rather than Africans. But yeah, just a weird, it feels like she builds and builds and builds and then goes a bit power mad a little bit, like with all this scandal, if you like, and maybe a bit power heavy because she's got all this allies now. She's taken on this really key part of Angola. It's a real tricky. But also, is she just playing the game?
This is it. We're looking at it with our time's morals and ethics. And I imagine to someone in that time, it would be the equivalent of having a supply of any other natural resource and not profiting from it. I would be surprised to think that a woman who felt it was appropriate to ask someone to command someone in her cortege to sit and become a stool for her. She doesn't sound like the kind of person who would have big, ethical qualms about selling the conquered citizens of a territory you've just taken over, say. I don't need them.
It's not out of character, is it? And
right.
You're right. Like, she's not going to be going to choral society on a Sunday, is she? She's got different
She's
things.
got her contemporary time. Her worldview is of her day,
yes,
and of her class, of her station. She's a ruler not really necessarily that fussed about the kind of the little people.
It's such a juxtaposition, isn't it, to giving people refuge, which she was doing, and then, you know, there's this statistic of that's how many she sold. So it is it's a funny one.
It's jarring. It is jarring.
It's jarring. Like I said, she was keen on aligning with other people. Ally that she made was actually the Dutch. So the Dutch West Indian Company had actually captured a really key, I mentioned it earlier, Luanda, from the Portuguese, which was a key part of the strategy in defeating the Portuguese. And so she was like, I like that. I like that you've done that, the Dutch. Let's team up. So that's what she did. And she utilized this alliance with them to fend off this conflict. Okay. And it was a good partnership is how it worked out until it went sour, but we'll get onto that in a minute. So like I said, all of what she's doing, all these little things, is just pure resistance, and she's becoming the symbol of defiance to her people. And she was quite popular by all accounts in terms of that, because she continued to fight this oppression. She had quite a long reign, you know, like decades and decades and decades, to hold on to that reign when we've just seen how messy succession can be.
Yeah.
Quite a big deal. There's another quote here, if you wouldn't mind, just about how she was perceived.
She was a skilled negotiator, a fearless warrior, and a visionary leader who tirelessly fought for the autonomy and dignity of her people.
Yes, she did. So it's going well, lots of things. And they did hold off the Dutch, they did hold off the Portuguese for quite a long time. The Portuguese did ultimately regain their hold following reinforcements being brought over from Brazil. And what that did is that pushed Nzinga back to Matamba. So that it was her base, basically. Then the Dutch made a separate peace agreement with the Portuguese and broke their alliance off with her. So they kind of was like, we've got what we want now.
Yeah.
See you later. So it was quite transactional, I think. But not many other African leaders were doing that. She didn't let that stop her. Okay, so she keeps continuing and fighting these Portuguese as much as possible and resists the pressure to submit to them. And after a really, really lengthy, long negotiation in 1656, we're in now.
Wow.
So this is a peace treaty was finally agreed and was signed with Nzinga in 1657. And it was quite a decent treaty. Which reminds me so much of Qing Shi. This is what Qing Shi did when they tends to be. I don't know if this is true here, but in Qing Shi's episode, it was very much, she was a bit tired. She was ready to retire, to be honest.
I've been at this for decades at this point. For God's sake, let's just do something.
Let's just do something. But she got her claim to rule. So she kept the ruling of Matamba. She managed to get her surviving sister released. So one of them died, one of them got released. She managed to have security for her territory, so the Portuguese weren't coming in, which was a major win for her and her people. That's absolutely brilliant. She agreed to disband some of her warriors, but it also stipulated that so these are like her concessions. She would stipulate that she would allow missionaries into her territory. She also reconverts to Christianity at this point. So that kind of, I guess, that question of call me what you want, fine, kind of comes back on the table. Or, you know, she could have been really into it. We don't know. But actually, she secured her land. She's made it safe. She's kept her title, you know, and she stopped the war. Fine.
That's a lot. That's a lot to achieve. That's a lot to achieve.
I'll take it. So after her death in 1663, Nzinga's chosen successor was one of her sisters called Kambu, who actually, it really made me laugh when I was researching it. The article that I originally got this from said something like, in 1663, Nzinga's chosen successor, Barbara.
What?
There was Queen Barbara, but that was her Christianity name, right?
So right, Babs. Oh, I see. So okay.
Queen Babs, which is very
Babs.
Nice. I know.
You know, she's going to sort it out.
Why don't we have a Queen Barbara? I was then thinking, I was like, we should bring this name back. Anyway.
Never too late.
Come on, Barbara, you can do this. So it was quite a harmonious, if you compare that to how she got her throne in the first place, very harmonious. And so that was 2 women, so Nzinga and Barbara, and then after that another woman again ruled as well. So there was 3 succession of female leaders, which I don't think is what her brother probably envisaged way back when, but never mind. And this kind of became quite common in this Mantamba area. Then the legend starts and the legacy starts. So as we know, oral traditions in Africa are very important, and this is something that was passed down throughout, and also throughout Latin America as well, because obviously the Portuguese link. And Angolan actually claimed their independence in the 60s and 70s. There was a movement there, and they still kind of, that legacy and that story lived on, and she kind of became their national hero. We would call them national treasures. It's kind of that kind of vibe to her. And today she's considered mother of the nation of Angola, which is pretty amazing. On top of that, in 2013, the Angolan government commemorated her 350th anniversary of her death by erecting a statue. So she even got that recognition. I'm sorry, 350 years later. That's pretty cool, isn't it? She's also recognised at most Rio carnivals. There's often a float dedicated to her, which is quite cool. Most recently, there's been a Netflix documentary about her that came out in 2023 called African Queens Nzinga. And it's really that she must have done something super. I'm not saying that what she achieved wasn't special, but that PR spin doctory thing that we spoke about must have been so powerful for her to basically be a legend by the end of it, and create that legend and pass that down through actual centuries. It's really interesting, and she's kind of become a symbol in Africa of determination, resilience, and kind of it's okay not to be passive. Like, it's okay to fight. Because I think that was maybe a bit of a shock to the system when that quote you read about the military tactics, about guerrilla warfare and supply lines. I don't know. It felt to me that was new and that was innovative and that was different. And yes, so Nzinga reminds the world that the spirit of resistance is unbreakable and the pursuit of freedom is universal.
What an interesting woman. What an absolutely interesting woman. And that recognition that she has now.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's brilliant. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a good thing, but it's
I think
mad.
You're right, though. The fact that she was willing to do things and try things that others hadn't, and to kind of back it up with, if you do this, I'm going to smack you. But if you come back to the table and are prepared to be reasonable, we can make progress. So it's that, like, building on the violence to try to work through the diplomacy and actually achieving something, actually making a change.
And creating those allies as well. Like, she was on it on all fronts, and maybe that's what they saw, you know.
Can we just take a moment to recognize that she also had the foresight, Nzinga, to nominate a successor? Everybody, this is what's going to happen. Cool? Great. She was on it. She was very sensible woman.
I don't think her brother expected to die. I think he was like in his prime.
Surprise.
It's like those people who don't write a will, isn't it? Like,
oh my God,
he hadn't written his will. You should write your will. He wasn't expecting it, especially from his own sister. Allegedly. Mysterious circumstances. We don't know. So well, that is the story of Nzinga Mbandi.
Thank you so much. I had no idea. I knew basically nothing about Angola, and now I feel like I know heaps, so thank you.
Cool. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of She Changed History. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Find us on our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If you've got any ideas of women you'd like us to cover in a future episode, please comment on the socials or email us at shechangedhistory@gmail.com. Catch you next time.